The sound of the MRI machine is a language all on its own. Sharp, unrelenting, metallic bursts that feel like they're drilling into my very core. It's not just noise. It's a presence, loud and insistent, as if the machine itself is demanding answers. I lie on the narrow table, body rigid, head held in place, staring up at a ceiling that offers no comfort. The technician said it clearly: stay still, always stay still. But stillness is a skill I haven't mastered, at least not in my mind. My thoughts dart from one place to another, wild and disobedient, chasing questions I've been carrying for too long. There is an itch in my shoulder blade and a dull ache in my lower back. They nag at me, these small, mortal inconveniences, but I resist the urge to move. Stillness is the price of discovery, the cost of finding out why my body has become this strange, unpredictable thing I can no longer trust. I try to focus on my breath, in, out, slow, controlled. The rhythmic rise and fall of my chest is the only thing I have power over in this moment. Yet, somewhere between the clicks and clonks of the machine, a new thought slides in, uninvited but persistent. What if there's no answer? What if this scan is just another in a long line of inconclusive results? When the machine finally powers down, the silence feels almost deafening, but it doesn't bring relief. I know this routine too well. I'll leave the room, the technician smiles, offering no clues, and I'll wait. Days, maybe weeks, for results that will likely lead to more questions than answers. And I'll be back here again, lying still in the grip of that relentless machine. That's how this year was, an endless amount of tests trying to answer questions that felt bigger than me and my body. I used to believe grief was something tied to loss of a person, a moment, a thing you could no longer have. But I've learned it can also be tied to things you carry, the weight that accumulates in the silence, pressing down on your chest until breathing becomes its own kind of labor. This past year, 2 new diagnoses joined the growing list. Their names cold and clinical, as though the name itself was designed to keep emotions at bay. And with each one, the grief grew heavier, not just for what I had lost, but for what I might never have again. Energy, autonomy, the casual ease of moving through a world that doesn't feel like stacked against you. The appointments became their own kind of ritual, an endless loop of referrals, paperwork, and delays that stretched on for months. Each visit brought a mix of hope and resignation. Maybe this specialist would see something that the last one missed. Or maybe I'll leave with nothing but the echo of my own frustration. The grief didn't just live in the questions or the empty spaces where answers should have been. It lived in the realizations, the limits, the slow waking acceptance of what my body could no longer do, at least not in ways that it once could. These losses weren't sudden. They crept in over time until one day they were undeniable. I felt their weight in every step, every attempt to push past the boundaries my body had drawn for me. For months, the grief sat with me, silent but unshakable, a constant companion in the quiet hours of the night. It wrapped itself around me, whispering of all the ways I had fallen short, of all the things I might never reclaim. I didn't know how to move forward. I wasn't even sure I wanted to. And then one night, almost without thinking, I picked up my laptop and began writing. At first, the words felt clumsy, awkward on the page, as though they didn't quite belong to me. But I kept going. A sentence, then another. The words weren't profound or even particularly good, but they were mine. They were a small act of creation in a life that had felt for too long defined by laws. There was something in that act, in the way the words formed slowly but surely under my fingers, that felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. For months, I had been caught in a cycle of waiting and wondering, of hoping for answers that never came. Writing didn't offer answers, but it gave me something else. A sense of control, however fleeting, in a life that felt utterly chaotic. The sound of the MRI machine is still with me. Even now, months later, it echoes into my mind, a reminder of how relentless the search for answers can be. But so is the sound of my typing. The quiet rhythm of fingers on keys feel like its own kind of pulse. Steady, deliberate, alive. The grief hasn't disappeared and the questions remain. But in the act of writing, I found something I didn't realize I was looking for. A way to exist within the uncertainty. A way to hold the questions without being consumed by them. A way to move forward even when the path feels impossible to see. And maybe that's enough for now.